They thought the cold had killed her fight. They thought a female operative was just a PR stunt. They were dead wrong. When the arrogant mercenaries of Black Ridge Security cornered her broken team, they didn't hear the click. They didn't see the bolt. But when Elena Vance raised the weapon, they mocked the laughter stopped, and the explosions began. The wind in the Carpathian Mountains didn't just blow, it screamed. It tore through the thermal layers of Lieutenant Commander Elena Vance's ghillie suit, biting at the exposed skin around her eyes. She lay perfectly still, buried under 2 feet of powder and pine needles, her heart rate consciously lowered to 40 beats per minute. Beside her, Spotter Chief Mac McAllister adjusted the scope of his spotting scope, his breath misting in the freezing air. 200 meters to the rendezvous. Mac whispered, his voice barely audible over the comms. Visibility is dropping. If that bird doesn't show in 5 mics, we're ice sculptures. Eleanor didn't respond. She didn't have to. As the team lead for this off-the-books extraction, she knew the stakes. They were tasked with securing deep cover asset Viktor Volkov, a man who held the encryption keys to half of Eastern Europe's drone defense grid. The mission was strictly deny existence. If they were caught, the Navy would claim they were rogue hikers who got lost. Movement, Elena said, her voice flat. 3 o'clock, ridge line. Through the lens of her customized optics, she saw them. They weren't the standard Russian patrols they had briefed on. These men moved differently. Heavy armor, advanced optics, unparalleled discipline. They swept the terrain with the precision of predators. I see 'em, Mac hissed. That's not Spetsnaz. Look at the patches. Elena zoomed in. The insignia was a black mountain peak on a grey shield. Black Ridge Security. Elena identified her stomach tightening. Top-tier private military contractors. Mercenaries. What is Black Ridge doing this deep in the connection zone? Mac asked. Getting paid, Elena muttered. A lot. The radio crackled. It was Alpha Team, positioned down in the valley floor near the extraction cabin. Viper Actual. This is Alpha. We have the package. Volkov is secure, but he's panicking. Says he wasn't just running from his government. He says someone else is hunting him. Alpha, hold position, Elena ordered. We have hostiles. PMC battalion strength closing on your flank. Copy that. How much time do we... Crack! The sound of a high-velocity sniper round echoed through the valley. Alpha. Alpha report, Elena barked. Static. Then a voice that wasn't Alpha's came over the channel. It was smooth American and dripping with arrogance. Lieutenant Commander Vance, the voice said. Or do you prefer Ghost? We've been tracking your heat signature since the drop. You can come down and hand over Volkov, or we can bury you up there. Elena's eyes narrowed. Identify. Brock Riker, Senior Field Commander Black Ridge, and you're trespassing on my payday. Elena looked at Mac. He signaled toward the east flanking maneuvers. They were being boxed in. Riker, Elena said coolly, you're interfering with a sanctioned U.S. military operation. Stand down. Riker laughed. It was a cold, ugly sound. Sanctioned. You're a ghost team, Vance. You don't exist, which means killing you isn't a war crime. It's just cleaning up the wilderness. Elena shifted her weight. She reached behind her back, not for the standard-issue Mk-11 sniper rifle resting on the bipod, but for the large rectangular case strapped to her pack. Mac, she whispered. The toy. Mac's eyes widened. Elena, that's experimental. We haven't field-tested the payload in these temps. Riker thinks he has us outgunned, she said, unzipping the case. He's expecting bullets. He's expecting a firefight. She pulled out the weapon. It was a matte black tactical crossbow, a wicked skeleton of carbon fiber and titanium. It looked archaic compared to the assault rifles below, but the technology housing the tension cables was classified 3 levels above top secret. "Load the HE-4s, she commanded. Mac hesitated, then pulled a quiver of short, thick bolts from the pack. The tips weren't steel points. They were capped with high-explosive delayed fuse warheads. "Don't breathe, Mac," Elena whispered, locking the limbs into place. "They think they're hunting a rabbit. Let's show them a wolf." Down in the valley, the situation was disintegrating. The Black Ridge mercenaries had Alpha Team pinned inside the dilapidated hunting cabin. Heavy machine gun fire shredded the wooden walls, turning the safe house into a splintered coffin. Brock Riker stood on the hood of his armored SUV, watching the carnage through binoculars. He was a massive man, a former ranger who had traded his flag for a paycheck. He chewed on a cigar, unlit, savoring the adrenaline. "Suppressing fire only," Riker shouted to his men. "I want the woman alive. The client pays double if we bring Vance in. They want to know who her handler is." Inside the tree line, his lieutenant, a man named Sterling, approached. "Sir, thermal scans show 2 heat signatures on the North Ridge. It's the sniper team. They aren't moving." "They're paralyzed," Riker scoffed. "Probably freezing to death. Send a squad up there to bag them. If they resist, grease the spotter but keep the female. I want to see the look on her face when she realizes her career ends in a body bag." High above, Eleanor watched the squad detach from the main force and start the climb. 6 men. Professional. They moved cover to cover. "Range 400 meters," Mac intoned. "Wind is howling, Elena. That bolt is heavier than a bullet. The drop is going to be significant." "I know the math, Mac," Elena said softly. She shouldered the crossbow. It felt different than a rifle lighter, yet more intimate. There was no recoil anticipation, no explosion in the chamber next to her ear. Just tension waiting to be released. She peered through the digital scope, which calculated the arc based on the bolt's weight and wind speed. The reticle floated over the lead mercenary. "They're mocking us," Mac observed. "Look at them, walking upright." The lead merc was indeed bold, signaling to his team with lazy hand gestures. He thought the sniper rifle was useless in this crosswind at this angle. He was right about the rifle. Elena exhaled, emptying her lungs until she was a void. "Don't breathe." She squeezed the trigger. Thwomp! The sound was a whisper compared to a gunshot. The bolt sliced through the air, fighting the gale force wind. It arced high, disappearing into the grey sky, then dropped with terrifying speed. The lead mercenary never heard it coming. The bolt slammed into the granite rock face, 2 feet above his head. He flinched, looking up at the thud. "Missed!" he yelled into his radio, grinning. "She's shaking. She can't. Beep, beep, boom!" The high explosive tip detonated. It wasn't designed to penetrate. It was designed to shatter. The explosion blew tons of unstable shale and ice loose from the overhang. The mercenary looked up just in time to see the mountain coming down on him. A localized avalanche buried the first 3 men in seconds. The silence returned instantly, broken only by the settling snow. "What the hell was that?" Riker's voice screamed over the intercepted frequency. "Mortars, I thought they were light infantry." "Not mortars," Elena whispered to herself, racking the slide to load another bolt. "Physics." 3 down, Mac reported, his voice trembling with adrenaline. "The other 3 are scrambling. They're taking cover behind that cluster of pines. Range 380. "Load the thermal barrack," Elena said. "Eleanor, that's a war crime in some counties," Mac said, though he was already reaching for the red-tipped bolt. "We aren't in a county, Mac. We're in a survival situation. And I'm not dying on this mountain." She locked the red bolt in. The remaining mercenaries were huddled behind a thicket of ancient pines, thinking the wood would protect them from bullets. Elena aimed not at the men, but at the center of the tree cluster. Thwomp! The bolt flew true. It struck the center trunk and embedded deep into the wood. For a second, nothing happened. The mercenaries looked at the arrow sticking out of the tree, confused. "It's a crossbow," one of them laughed nervously. "She's shooting arrows at us, Robin Hood is." The air pressure dropped suddenly as the thermobaric charge ignited. It wasn't a fragmentation explosion. It was a pressure wave. A sphere of fire erupted, consuming the oxygen in a 20-foot radius and expanding outward with enough force to liquefy organs. The trees shattered. The mercenaries didn't even have time to scream. Down in the valley, Riker watched the mushroom cloud of snow and fire rise from the ridge. He lowered his binoculars, his face pale. "That's not a standard loadout," Sterling whispered, stepping back. "Sir, what are we dealing with?" Riker grabbed the radio. "All units. Forget the cabin. Focus fire on that ridge. Bring the 50 cal around. I want that ridge turned into a parking lot." Elena rolled onto her back as heavy machine gun fire began to chew up the earth where she had just been lying. She dragged herself and her weapon into a depression in the earth. "They're angry now," Mac said, checking his ammo. "We have 4 bolts left, and there are still 30 of them down there." "We need to move," Elena said. "They'll call in air support if they have it. We need to get down there and finish this close-up." "Close up? With a crossbow?" Elena looked at him, her eyes icy blue. "It's silent, Mac. And I have the multi-target bolts." She checked the perimeter. The path down was treacherous, a suicide run through exposed rock. But staying here meant death by heavy caliber fire. "We slide," Elena said. "On my mark." They launched themselves down the slope, sliding on their tactical vest plates, like sleds navigating the trees. Bullets whizzed past them, snapping branches. They crashed into the snowbank at the bottom, just 50 yards from the cabin's perimeter. Elena was up instantly, the crossbow raised. A Black Ridge patrol was flanking the cabin, unaware the sniper had just become an assault trooper. Elena moved like a phantom. She didn't run, she flowed. She rounded the corner of a snowdrift and came face to face with a mercenary. He raised his rifle. Elena didn't hesitate. She fired from the hip. This bolt was different, a splitter. Mid-air, the sabot separated, releasing 3 razor-sharp tungsten flechettes. The mercenary dropped his tactical vest, useless against the needle-like projectiles that found the gaps in his armor. Elena pressed forward, reaching the cabin wall. She banged on the wood 3 times. "Alpha, it's Viper." "Viper? We're hit bad," came the reply from inside. "Volkov is wounded. We can't move him." Elena looked at Mac. "Change of plans. We aren't extracting. We're holding the line." "Against Riker's main force?" Mac asked, reloading her quiver. "With what?" Elena looked at the last bolt in her pack. It was black with a yellow hazard strip. The bunker buster. "We're going to invite Riker to dinner," Elena said grimly. "Get on the comms. Tell Riker I surrender." Mac stared at her. "What? Do it. Tell him I'm coming out. Tell him I have the encryption keys. He'll kill you on sight." "He's greedy," Elena said, checking the explosive tip. "Greed makes men stupid. He'll want to gloat. He'll want to see the woman who took out his squad." She stood up, slinging the crossbow behind her back, so it was hidden by her cape, but easily reachable. She pulled her sidearm, ejected the magazine, and threw the empty gun into the snow, where Riker could see it. "Call him." The wind had died down, leaving an eerie silence that amplified the crunch of snow under heavy boots. Elena walked out of the tree line, her hands raised above her head. Empty. The white camouflage of her ghillie suit made her look like a ghost detaching itself from the landscape. 50 yards away, Brock Riker stood by his armored SUV, surrounded by 20 of his best men. They had their weapons trained on her expensive HK-416 assault rifles with thermal optics. A single twitch from any of them would turn Eleanor into pink mist. "Hold fire!" Riker shouted, his voice booming. He walked forward, a smug grin plastered on his face. He looked every bit the corporate warlord tactical beard Oakley's, and a demeanor that screamed unchecked power. Eleanor stopped 10 feet from him. She could see the veins in his neck, the arrogance in his eyes. He didn't see a threat. He saw a trophy. "Smart move, Vance," Riker sneered, stepping into her personal space. He circled her like a shark. "I knew you were Navy, but I didn't think you were stupid enough to die for a defector like Volkov." "The mission is compromised," Elena said, her voice steady, betraying none of the adrenaline flooding her system. "My team is wounded. I'm trading Volkov for safe passage. Get us a medevac and you can have him." Riker laughed, a harsh bark that made his men chuckle nervously. He stopped in front of her and backhanded her across the face. The blow was heavy. Elena's head snapped to the side. The metallic taste of blood filled her mouth. She didn't stumble. She slowly turned her head back to face him, her eyes burning with a cold, terrifying intensity. "You aren't in a position to negotiate, sweetheart," Riker spat. "You're in the kill box. I take Volkov because I want to. I kill your team because they're loose ends. And you? I'm going to take you back to headquarters. My clients will pay a fortune to live stream the interrogation of a female SEAL." He leaned in close, whispering in her ear. "They said you were the best, the Ice Queen. But look at you. No rifle, no backup. Just a little girl lost in the woods." Elena stared at him. She saw the complacency. He was so focused on her empty hands that he hadn't checked her back. He hadn't noticed the strange, rigid posture she held, or the way her cape draped unnaturally over her right shoulder. "You're right, Riker," Elena said softly. "I don't have my rifle." "Check her for a wire," Riker ordered Sterling, who was standing by the SUV. "Then zip-tie her and drag Volkov out of that cabin." Sterling approached, holstering his weapon. "Turn around, Vance." Elena didn't move. She locked eyes with Riker. "I don't have a rifle," she repeated, her voice dropping an octave. "But I didn't come alone." "What?" Riker frowned. "Your spotter is dead. We saw the heat signature fade." "Mac isn't dead," Elena said, "and neither is the payload." Riker's eyes flickered with confusion. "Payload?" Elena dropped to her knees. It looked like submission, but it was a combat stance. As she dropped, she twisted her torso violently. The movement whipped her cape aside, revealing the crossbow strapped to her back, not in a travel position, but locked on a quick-release swivel mount. It was already cocked. The black bolt with the yellow hazard strip, the bunker buster, was nocked and ready. Riker's eyes widened. He reached for his sidearm. "Drop her." But Elena didn't aim at Riker. She didn't aim at the men. She aimed at the armored SUV behind them, specifically at the reactive armor, plating protecting the fuel cells. "Do it, Mac!" she screamed into her comms. High on the ridge, Mac didn't fire a bullet. He triggered the remote laser designator he had been painting the truck with for the last 2 minutes. The bunker buster bolt wasn't just an explosive. It was a laser-guided tandem charge penetrator designed to punch through 2 inches of rolled homogeneous steel. Thwump! The bolt left the rail just as the first bullet from Riker's men grazed Elena's shoulder. The distance was 10 feet. The flight time was non-existent. The bolt slammed into the side of the SUV. The first charge detonated, blowing the armor plate off. A millisecond later, the second charge fired through the hole, igniting the main fuel tank and the crate of extra munitions Riker had stored in the back. The explosion was not a sound. It was a physical force. The bunker buster bolt struck the armored SUV, its tandem charge, punching through the plating and igniting the fuel cells. A fireball the size of a house erupted, flipping the 3-ton vehicle and tossing Riker's men like rag dolls into the snow. Eleanor, having anticipated the blast, curled into a depression in the earth. As the shockwave passed, she didn't wait for the smoke to clear. She rolled to her feet, moving like a wraith through the debris. A dazed mercenary stumbled toward her. Elena disarmed him with a brutal wrist lock, silenced him, and seized his HK-416 rifle. "Alpha, go loud! Go loud!" she roared into her comms. From the battered cabin, the windows erupted with muzzle flashes. Alpha Team, realizing the siege was broken, poured fire into the confused Black Ridge ranks. Elena moved constantly, her thermal contact lens lighting up targets in the smoke. She fought with the ferocity of a platoon, clearing the path until she found him. Brock Riker was crawling through the blackened snow, clutching his side, his arrogance incinerated. He reached desperately for a fallen radio. Elena kicked it out of reach. She stood over him, blocking out the sun. "Vance!" Riker coughed, blood staining his beard. "Wait, I have money. Offshore accounts. 5 million right now." "You violated a sovereign border," Elena said, her voice ice cold. "And you hunted my team for profit." "It's just business," Riker pleaded. Elena reached behind her back, unclipped the now empty crossbow, and tossed it onto his chest. It clattered against his ruined armor. "You laughed at it. You thought it was a toy. That toy just destroyed your battalion." Riker stared at the weapon in horror. "Who are you? We're the ones you don't see." Mac emerged from the smoke, limping but alive. "Command just radioed. Extraction birds are inbound. 2 minutes." Elena hauled Riker up by his vest. "You aren't dying today, Riker. You're going to a black site. You're going to give us every name on your client list. And every time you think about lying, you'll remember the sound of that crossbow." 3 days later, inside a secure facility in Virginia, Admiral Halloway slid a folder across a metal table. "Riker sang," Halloway said. "We dismantled 3 corruption networks based on his intel. Volkov is safe and translating the drone keys." Elena took a sip of stale coffee, her expression unreadable. "One thing, Commander," Halloway added, a smirk touching his lips. "The official report says you engaged with standard ordnance, but Riker keeps rambling about a silent explosion. Care to explain?" Elena glanced at the black case by the door. "The wind was high, Admiral. We had to improvise." Halloway nodded, knowing better than to ask. "Good work. You redeploy in 48 hours. Try to bring the vehicle back in one piece next time." Elena picked up the case, a rare smile gracing her face. "Don't breathe, sir. That's the secret. Just don't breathe." Elena Vance proved that in modern warfare, technology matters, but skill and nerve matter more. She turned a moment of humiliation into a masterclass of tactical dominance, reminding us that the most dangerous weapon isn't the one that makes the loudest noise. It's the one you never hear coming. If you enjoyed this story of justice served cold, please hit the like button. Share this with a friend, and subscribe for more military drama stories.